On the first day of the month, I was at home alone, resting on my bed, when I was slapped. Two men, extremely large, appeared to me. I'd never seen anything like them on earth. Their faces were shining like the sun, and their eyes were like burning lights. Fire was coming from their lips, and they were singing various songs. They wore purple clothing and had wings brighter than gold, and their hands whiter than snow. They were standing at the head of my bed, and began to call me by my name. And I rose from my sleep, and saw clearly those two men standing in front of me. And I saluted them, and was seized with fear. And my face changed from terror. And those men said to me, "You've got the courage, Enoch. Don't worry. The eternal God sent us to you, and today you're going to ascend with us into heaven. You'll tell your sons and your whole household what they need to do without you on earth. Don't let anyone look for you until the Lord sends you back." I got up and went out as quickly as I could. I went to the doors as I was told. I called for my sons, Methuselah, Regim, and Guy Dad. Enoch told his sons all about the amazing things he'd seen. The angels picked him up and took him to the first heaven, where he sat on the clouds. I looked around and saw the ether. The angels put me on the first heaven and showed me a huge sea. It was even more impressive than the sea on earth. They showed me the leaders of the different groups of stars and 200 angels who rule the stars. They also showed me how the angels fly with their wings and help the heavens. I looked down and saw the treasure houses of snow and the angels who keep their valuable stores. I also saw the clouds. I was curious about where they came from and where they went. They showed me the treasure house of the dew, which was like oil of the olive. Its appearance was like all the flowers of the earth. There were also many angels guarding the treasure houses of these things. They showed me how they are made to shut and open. Then, they took me up to the second heaven and showed me darkness that was even greater. And there I saw prisoners hanging from the ceiling. They were being watched and awaiting judgment. These angels were dark and made weeping throughout the day and night. I asked the men with me, "Why are these people being tortured?" They answered, "These are God's apostates who disobeyed God's commands. They made their own choices and went their own way, following their own leader, who was also stuck in the fifth heaven." Then, those men took me to the third heaven and left me there. I looked down and saw the results of these places, which were anything but good. I saw all the sweet-smelling flowering trees and their fruits, which were sweet. The food and drinks were all scented and exhaled a sweet smell. In the middle of it all, the trees of life were there, where the Lord rested when he went up into paradise. This tree was the most wonderful thing I'd ever seen. It was good and smelled great, and it was more beautiful than anything else. It was gold, red, and fire-like. It covers everything and has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end. Paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. Two springs come out, which send forth honey and milk. Their springs send forth oil and wine. They separate into 4 parts and go round with a quiet course. They go down into the paradise of Eden between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go. They spread out across the earth and have a revolution to their circle, just like other elements. There's no unfruitful tree here, and every place is blessed. There are 300 angels who are very bright. They keep the garden with incessant sweet singing and never silent voices. They serve the Lord throughout all days and hours. Those two men led me up onto the northern side and showed me a very terrible place. It was of all manner in that place. There are no torches. It's a cruel darkness and an unillumined gloom. There's no light there, just murky fire constantly flaming aloft. There's also a fiery river coming forth, and the whole place is on fire. There's frost and ice everywhere, thirst and shivering. The bonds are very cruel, and the angels are fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons and merciless torture. I said, "Woe, woe, how very terrible is this!" And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor God. On earth, they practice sin against nature, which is child corruption, after the sodomitic fashion. They engage in magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcraft. They boast of their wicked deeds, stealing lies, calamities, envy, rancor, fornication, murder, and more. They are accursed and steal the souls of men. They see the poor and take away their goods. They themselves wax the rich, hurt them for other people's stuff. They could have satisfied the hungry, but they made them die of hunger. They could have clothed the naked, but they stripped them. They didn't know their Creator. They bowed to gods that weren't alive. They built images and bowed down to things that couldn't see or hear. They're the ones who'll get this place. Those men took me and led me up onto the fourth heaven. And showed me all the different ways. The sun and moon give off light. I measured how far they travel. And compared their light. And saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. Its circle. And the wheels it goes on move like wind. Very quickly. Day and night. It has no rest. It moves and comes back. With 4 big stars. And each star has. Under it there are 1,000 stars to the right of the sun's wheel, and 4 to the left. Each star has 1,000 stars beneath it. In total, there are 8,000 stars. They come out with the sun, and by day, 15,000 angels accompany it. By night, 1,000 angels and 6 winged ones come out with the angels before the sun's wheel into the fiery flames. 100 angels kindle the sun and set it alight. The men took me to the 5th heaven. And there I saw many, countless soldiers. They were called Grigori, and they looked like humans. They were bigger than regular giants. Their faces were withered, and they never spoke. There was no service on the 5th heaven. I asked the men who were with me, Why are these withered? Why are their faces sad? Why is there no service on this heaven? They told me, These are the Grigori, who with their leader Satanael rejected the Lord of light. After them are those who are held in great darkness on the 2nd heaven. 3 of them went down from the Lord's throne to Hermon and broke their vows on the hill of Hermon. They saw the daughters of men and took wives, which defiled the earth. With their actions, they made lawlessness and mixing, and giants were born. They also gave rise to marvelous men and great enmity. Consequently, God judged them with great judgment. They weep for their brethren and will be punished on the Lord's great day. Then, those men picked me up and carried me up to the 6th heaven. There, I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious. Their faces shone more than the sun's shining. They're like the sun glistening, with no difference in their faces, behavior, or manner of dress. They make the orders, learn the goings of the stars, and the alteration of the moon or revolution of the sun. They also govern the world. When they see evil doing, they make commandments and instruction, and sweet and loud singing, and all songs of praise. These are the archangels, who are above angels. Measure all life in heaven and on earth. And the angels who oversee the seasons and years. And those who oversee rivers and seas. And who oversee the fruits of the earth. And the angels who oversee every grass. Giving food to all. Every living thing. And the angels who record all the souls of men. And all their deeds. And their lives before the Lord's face. In their midst are 6 phoenixes. And 6 cherubim. And 6 the winged ones are singing together, and it's impossible to describe their song. They're celebrating before the Lord at his throne. 2 men picked me up and took me to the 7th heaven. I saw a bright light and fiery troops of great archangels. There were also corporal forces and dominions, orders and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones and many-eyed ones. Regiments. The Ionite stations of light. I was afraid. And began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me, and led me after them, and said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. And showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there? On the 10th heaven. Since the Lord dwells there. On the 10th heaven. Is God. In the Hebrew tongue. He is called Aravad. And the troops would come and stand on the 10 steps, according to their rank, and bow down to the Lord. They would then go back to their places, in joy and felicity, singing songs in the boundless light with small and tender voices. They gloriously served him. I also saw the 8th heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue, Muzaloth. It is the changer of the seasons of drought and of wet. There were also the 12 constellations. I also saw the circle of the firmament, which is above the 7th heaven. On the 9th heaven, which is called Kuchavim in Hebrew, I saw the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations. On the 10th heaven, which is called Aravath, I saw the Lord's face. It was like iron made to glow in fire, and it burned. The Lord's face is ineffable. It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. On the one hand, it's pretty amazing. On the other hand, it's also pretty awful. And who am I to talk about the Lord's unspeakable being and his very wonderful face? I can't even begin to tell you how many instructions the Lord has given us. And the number of people standing around him is pretty impressive, too. There are troops of cherubim and seraphim, and they're singing all the time. The Lord is also very beautiful, and that's something you can't really describe. I fell to my knees and bowed before the Lord. He spoke to me, saying, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Rise and stand before my face into eternity. The archangel Michael then lifted me up and led me before the Lord's face. The Lord then turned to his servants and said, Tempt Enoch as you wish. Let him stand before me into eternity. The glorious ones then bowed before the Lord and said, Let Enoch go according to your word. The Lord told Michael to take Enoch out of his clothes and put him in his own clothes. Michael did what the Lord said. He put sweet oil on me and dressed me in my clothes. The oil looked like bright light. It smelled mild. It shined like the sun. I looked at myself. I looked like one of his angels.